for the leadership and tireless work to protect lives, property, and the constitutional right of people across LA County. On behalf of the LA County Legislative Delegation and 10 million people that call LA County home, we have a simple message for current President of the United States. Stop. Just stop. Mr. President, stop violating the constitutional rights of the people of LA County. Mr. President, stop violating the due process rights of the people of LA County. Mr. President, stop provoking fear and violence in LA County. Be clear, there's no federal emergency in Los Angeles. Governor Newsom, Sheriff Luna, Mayor Bass, and LAPD Sheriff McDonald are fully capable of maintaining peace in LA County, and they are doing so. Mr. President, stand down the use of any federalized National Guard troops in LA County. LA County is not your political punching bag. We are strong people, and we are not to be bullied by you or any in your administration that seeks to divide or intimidate us. Look, my name is Tina McKenna, and I support the peaceful protest in LA County. The peaceful protest in LA County. People in LA County have the right to a peaceful protest, and we all here, all the legislators here, support that. We will have your back, LA County, but we need you to do your part by exercising your constitutional right to free speech and assembly peacefully. Show your strength through peaceful actions. Show your strength by rejecting violence, by rejecting the hate of this federal government. LA County, we are better than the nonsense and chaos of this current federal government. Show your strength through peace. Yeah, you know, part of the chaos being created by the federal government is meant to distract us from the important work we were elected to do here in Sacramento. In less than a week, we will be asked to vote on a state budget that could make access to health care easier or more difficult, that could make access to affordable housing more easier or more difficult, that we can access services for food easier or more difficult. To my colleagues, do not take the bait. Remain focused. This federal government is clearly underestimating our ability to do more than one thing at a time. This is not the first time that some people have underestimated LA, and that's fine. The federal government, this federal government, they not like us. We can and we will protect our constituent constitutional rights while making sure we pass a balanced, on-time state budget that protects the most vulnerable in our state. LA is strong, diverse, and resilient. Our resilience is our strength, and we will not be intimidated by anyone threatening our peace. And so next, I would like to bring up our leader, our speaker, Robert Rivas.
Thank you, Assembly Member. Appreciate your words always. And for the second time in 5 years, we are witnessing Donald Trump use the power of government to incite violence and chaos. The first was January 6th in Washington, D.C. The second is happening right now as we speak on the streets of Los Angeles. Now, how many of our local police officers, sheriff's deputies, emergency personnel, how many of our neighbors, how many of our friends must be subjected to Trump's nonsense and to his violence before we wake up to what is really going on? Let's be clear about what's unfolding in Los Angeles. Trump claims to be concerned about the safety of Angelenos, but that is a lie. This is not about law and order, because if it was about law and order, he would listen to our local law enforcement. He would be listening to California residents. Instead, Trump wants chaos. He wants disruption. He's stoking unrest. He's provoking fear. And he will do everything in his power to get it. And for what exactly? To distract us. His economic policies are failing. Prices are way up. His tariffs are a failure. So Trump is doing what Trump does best: creating a violent spectacle for the cameras, all to distract us from his failed policies. 81 years ago this past weekend, Americans landed on the beaches of Normandy and risked their lives. Their cause was fighting and defeating fascism. And today, right here in California, we must have that same moral clarity. Because what we are seeing, raids without coordination, a federalized National Guard, fear tactics aimed at our immigrants, this is pulled straight from a fascist playbook. We cannot give Trump what he wants. We're not going to allow our state to become a stage for political violence. I, as well with Chair McKinnon, we stand with our law-abiding Angelenos who are responding peacefully. And I as well want to emphasize that point. I stand with Angelenos who are responding peacefully against Trump's attack on our home. I also want to speak directly to our immigrant communities in Los Angeles and across California. Many of you are feeling fear and worry at this moment. And like many of my colleagues here this morning and those serving in the California State Legislature, I'm the proud son of Mexican immigrants, first-generation Californian. And I want you to know that your elected officials, we all stand with you. We will defend your rights. You are essential to our communities. You make California thrive, and you are not alone. Let me also speak plainly about our friend, Mr. David Huerta. He's a respected labor and community leader. His indictment is politically motivated. And like everyone here this morning, we demand his release. And now Donald Trump has issued this reckless threat to arrest Governor Gavin Newsom, which is a direct assault on democracy and an insult to every single Californian. And let me be clear, if Donald Trump wants to jail our governor for defending our Constitution, for protecting the people of California, then he'll have to arrest me too, and I will gladly and proudly stand with our governor in that jail cell. And next, I'd like to turn it back over to the chair of the LA delegation, Ms. McKinnon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next, we'll have from our State Senate, State Senator Lola Smallwood Cuevas.
Good morning, everyone. I stand here representing the 28th District of Los Angeles, that's South Central, Culver City, downtown LA, where we have seen our residents abused, their rights violated, treated inhumanely. And just this morning, on my way to this press conference, 7 people were arrested at Expo Park as they tried to go to work in our state campus there in South LA. Aligning with the other speakers, they are not like us, and California is better than them. And we know that this is an effort to make California do what Trump has been trying to do all along. He's incited emotional violence, physical violence, and financial and economic violence on our communities by threatening our education systems, threatening our immigrant neighbors, trying to destabilize our state. But we are fighting back here because we are not going to do what Donald Trump wants us to do. We are going to exercise our rights. We're going to protect our immigrant neighbors, and we're going to pass a responsible budget that ensures that all of our residents are treated fairly, with dignity, and with respect. We cannot let Donald Trump turn Los Angeles into a martial law community. We must exercise our right. In LA, we know how to protest, and we know how to exercise our constitutional rights in ways that protect our neighbors and also ensures that our message is clear, that we will resist and we will contest, but we will not allow violence to be incited and exploded in our communities by Donald Trump. And that is what his actions are about. The arrest of a labor leader, disappearing David Huerta, a well-known labor leader in Los Angeles, is an example of trying to incite our community into violence and to act. But we stand united denouncing this arrest. We stand united denouncing these charges. And we stand with the thousands, the tens of thousands of people who are on the streets this very moment, united in peaceful demonstrations, and have met this militarized force with aggressive nonviolence and aggressive love, not just for Los Angeles, but for all of California. Because where LA goes, the rest of the state will go. And we know that LA is not the only community in the target of this administration. I want to be clear that the federal government is trying to twist this moment into something that it is not. This is about us exercising constitutional rights. This is about us calling for dignity and respect and safety on our streets. And it's about us standing up for each other as Californians. And we will not be moved into a state of hysteria and violence by this administration. I thank my colleagues today for convening this conversation, and we pray, ask, and demand justice and calm in our communities.
Thank you, Senator. Next, we'll have Senator Aisha Wahab.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Aisha Wahab, state senator that represents the East Bay and South Bay in the Bay Area. First, I want to thank the chair, Ms. McKinnon, for hosting us and being the chair of the LA delegation, as well as Speaker Rivas for voicing his concerns, as well as our pro tem who has been working day and night to answer some of our questions. I want to make this very clear. This is about instilling fear and separating communities. And it didn't start just on Friday. I want to say that, again, we saw a travel ban come out of this administration. That travel ban didn't garner as much attention, right? It is a smaller community. It is a community that largely doesn't have a lot of representation. And this divide and conquer mentality that is being pushed is working for some people. But it's also backfiring for the Trump administration. And I want to be very clear about this, because going after the president of SEIU, holding him without any representation and denying members of Congress access to facilities that they are legally entitled to enter and do a drop-in visit, that is un-American and it's illegal. And as much as we are talking about the undocumented community, I want to highlight who he has detained besides the president of SEIU. He has literally pushed people, pregnant women, and detained them. He has shot rubber bullets at reporters, you all, just for reporting what is happening on the ground. And I will also highlight that there are plenty of Republicans that have reached out saying this is not what we voted for. This is absolutely not the America that we envisioned. Now, the undocumented community, and I want to be very clear about this, we've had Republican presidents make a pathway to citizenship. President Reagan ensured that thousands upon thousands of people that came here, work here, live here, and want to die here become Americans. That is leadership. This is not leadership. This is divide and conquer and get away with what you can. And making sure that people disappear to foreign sites so rule of law is not followed and there is zero transparency where you guys can't do your work. That is not American. When we talk about social justice and humanity across the world, this is not an example of that. And so I really thank and encourage all of you guys for being here, for highlighting and uplifting the voice of the voiceless. And I want to highlight why that is important. Because people seeing what we are seeing on TV are afraid. There are kids that know that their parents have a different status than them and are afraid they don't want to go to school. There are people who don't want to show up to work. There are people thinking about how can I make sure that I am safe and my family is safe. That is what you guys are reporting. That is what should be uplifted. I stand with our LA colleagues, and from the Bay to LA, we love California. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Next, we'll have Assemblymember Mark Gonzalez.
Good afternoon. Thank you to our speaker. Thank you to our chair for our delegation. I come before you today not just as an elected official, but as a son of Los Angeles, as someone who grew up on these streets, and as someone who loves the state and knows the strength, the courage, and the heart of our people. My district was raided from every corner, from Koreatown to Boyle Heights to Pico Union to Westlake to downtown Los Angeles over the weekend. Right now, we are in a moment of testing, not just of policies, but of principles, not just of law enforcement, but of leadership. And I want to speak plainly about what we are facing and how we rise above it. Let's be clear about what is actually happening here. Donald Trump is baiting us into a trap. He is provoking unrest in our streets so he can point to the cameras, twist the headlines, and justify his crackdown. He is trying to turn California into a stage for his authoritarian theater, and we must not let him. We say to Mr. Trump, California will not be your political prop. Yes, we are angry. Yes, we are heartbroken. And yes, we have every right to protest, and we will continue to do so boldly and peacefully. But we will not meet cruelty with chaos. We will not trade justice for destruction. And we will not allow a few agitators to hijack the righteous cause of our communities. Let us be absolutely clear. When people throw rocks at officers just down the street from where I live, when cars are lit on fire, when our freeways are turned into battle zones, that's not protest. That is a sabotage. And whether it comes from the far right or for the reckless opportunists, it plays right into Donald Trump's hands. Those aren't acts of resistance. Those are gifts to authoritarianism. Now, in the middle of this crisis, what does he do? He tries to seize control of 2,000 National Guard soldiers in California, not because our law enforcement asked, but because the situation demands it, but because he wants that image. He wants the optics of federal troops in our cities. He wants to project power, not protect people. National Guard members take a note to uphold the Constitution, not one man's agenda. There are limits to what he can do, and we'll keep fighting to ensure those boundaries are respected. But here's the truth that he won't tell you. Just last night, thousands of sworn officers in Los Angeles County between LAPD and the Sheriff's Department, and thousands more available through mutual aid. There is no unmet need. Our local authorities are managing the situation that he created. And while Trump was claiming victory on the backs of the National Guard, it was the LAPD, not his troops, that actually de-escalated the unrest. He praised the Guard before they even got onto the ground. That is not leadership. That is propaganda. And now, while he tries to send troops into our communities, he's allowing agencies to carry out raids, violate due process, and rip families apart. Let's be crystal clear. California state law enforcement does not cooperate with indiscriminate immigration raids. The California Highway Patrol in Los Angeles is there to protect safety, not to be used as pawns for political persecution. We will not let Trump turn our public safety officers into immigration enforcers. We will not let him deny people access to lawyers. We will not let him trample on our Constitution and continue to call it order. Because this is not just one city or just about one area or one protest. It's about who we are and what kind of a country we are going to be. But I know where California stands. We stand for peace, not violence. We stand for justice, not political theater. We stand for each other, not against one another. So I'm asking every Californian and those of you who are covering this and watching this, protest, speak, march, organize. But do it with strength, do it with love, do it with the discipline and courage that our values demand at this time. The world is watching how we respond. Let them see the best of California. Because the moment may be hard, but I believe in us. I believe in the people who refuse to be silent in the face of injustice. I believe in the organizers who care more about community than they do credit. I believe in a California that leads even when the path is steep. So let's show them we can be powerful without being violent, we can be loud without being reckless, and we can win without losing who we are. And to my brother David Huerta, who I've known for many years, we want him to be free. We know what he did was not wrong. Today, we are doing the people's work. We want you a reminder to stay safe, stay proud, stay peaceful, and let's rise together. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce my colleague, my friend that I've worked with for a number of years, and we programmed all weekend, and if any of you were following him on social media, more than a rough weekend, but he was there for his community. His curiosity sparked the eye, and it got him to be on that front lines. So without further ado, my colleague, Jose Solache.
Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias or tardes. Let me tell you a little bit about that assembly member in the 62nd District. I was born in Bellflower. I come from immigrant parents who has this Latino, Mexican-American sass to himself. My name is Jose Luis Solache, proudly representing the 62nd District, the Southeast Los Angeles District, a district that's hardworking community, teachers, people that work in the ports, in downtown LA, in the hotels, people that are working Californian for making our country work. There's no secret that we're the fourth largest economy. It just didn't happen. We have hardworking community that includes our immigrant community, our undocumented community, and guess what? They live in my district. Saturday morning, I wake up, going to 6 events that I have programmed for the schedule. So excited to get on the freeway on the 710, a corridor that does so much for our community, including our ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. Why did I see a vehicle, white and green, Border Patrol in my district? I'm not in San Diego. I'm not by San Isidro. I'm in Paramount, California. The car exited Alondra. Of course, I bypassed them. I ran around the 91. I got off the freeway. And to my surprise, 6 vehicles from Border Patrol waiting to enter a facility. 6, not 1. Within minutes, you have an additional total of 25-plus Border Agent Patrol cars arriving to Paramount, California. 35-plus of them were unmarked vehicles, SUVs, rushing in there like they're going to some, rush operation. And then minutes later, you have 60-plus federal agents standing there in Border Patrol uniforms with rifles and guns. That's not the district that I represent. That's not what my community deserves. Did we forget that they were essential workers in 2020? And now they're criminals? Absolutely not. Not in my district, not in California. This is unacceptable. My community has been living in fear since January of 2025. Attendance rates in our schools have dropped since then. Have friends and allies that represent the agriculture, the ag community. Farmers are not going to work. Community is scared. A lot happened. And we were there peacefully demonstrating and watching what was going on. As a proud member of this assembly and one of 80, I was proud of my community to stand there with them. And yes, you have an array of folks expressing their anger, their frustration. Why do we have agents in our community? And I saw it all. And yes, I want to echo the words of my colleagues. Protesting and being peaceful is important. And we will not tolerate anyone that destroys property, especially as a former mayor that works so hard on infrastructure, that our cities look beautiful. We will not allow anyone to do that. Let the record be reflected on that. But when you have communities that are fearful because you have 60 agents in their backyard, in my district, in the Southeast, one of the highest Latino districts in the state of California, shocking that they're in Paramount, California. Yes, guess what happened? People showed up. People were united. And for me to be there as an observer with the vice mayor of the Paramount, and we were gassed, what the hell is that all about? We're peacefully standing there watching what's going on. You don't see weapons in my hand. You didn't see anything. I had my phone. That's all I had. I was distracted by the phone when I was hit by gas. I never experienced that before. In my eyes, I was coughing galore. Horrible experience. So is that what we're going to be treating our citizens now? Our community members? Who cares what title I have? It's that mother, that son, that grandma, that father was out there protesting. They're right to do it. How horrible. Is this what the national administration wants us to do? Horrible. So I call on the administration to stop these attacks. 2,000, people in uniform. I want my law enforcement to go protect that woman that's dealing with domestic violence. I want that police officer to go and deal with the traffic accident that unfortunately happened in our community. Not dealing with these situations. Our community deserves better. We are hard workers. Again, I remind you, in 2020 we were the heroes, and 2025 they're the villains. What the hell? And I'm not going to be safe with my words. This is how I feel. You're attacking my community, hardworking people that contribute to this country every single day. And this morning, I get off the plane, and Huntington Park, California, but for the record, they have search warrants. They have documents that they're specifically looking for criminals. Well, this morning in Huntington Park, in my district, at Home Depot, going after people. There's videos all over social media of them being chased, people running around scared. That's not the America that I live in. That's not the America that we want. So, Mr. President, please stop this from happening. We are not in war zones. We are in a community that's hardworking, and we demand that you stop this. Buenas tardes a todos. Solo quiero agradecerles por estar aquí. Yo soy José Luis Olache, el asambleísta del Distrito 62, que con mucho orgullo representa a la comunidad de Paramount. Una comunidad trabajadora que trabaja en los puertos de Los Ángeles, hoteles de Los Ángeles, son maestros, somos abogados, somos una comunidad trabajadora. Yo soy José Luis Olache, el asambleísta de padres inmigrantes, guanajuatenses, que somos de raíces mexicanas y con mucho orgullo. Represento una comunidad que es fuerte, que tiene sueños y que trabaja duro todos los días. No una comunidad de criminales. Una comunidad que es fuerte. Porque el sábado en la mañana miré agentes de inmigración en mi comunidad, bajándose de la autopista, yendo a un centro junto al Home Depot en Paramount. 6 carros de agentes federales. Después 25 total, y 35 que no tenían ni logotipo en sus carros. Qué triste que mi comunidad, que en 2020 fueron héroes en la pandemia, héroes, y hoy son criminales en 2025. Esto no es justo, mi comunidad es más fuerte que eso. El presidente de Estados Unidos, por favor, para estas personas que están aquí del ejército, no es justo que mi comunidad, que un día fueron héroes, ahora son criminales. Esta comunidad está fuerte y espero que el presidente haga algo porque estas cosas están pasando. Yo y la vicealcaldesa nos tiraron gas en los ojos. Yo estaba en mi teléfono cuando esto pasó. ¿Por qué? Mi comunidad no se merece eso. Por favor, hay que parar esto. Nuestra comunidad es fuerte y vamos a seguir luchando. Y al presidente le exigimos que pare esto. No somos una área de guerra, estamos una comunidad fuerte y trabajadora. Gracias. Thank you so much. Y ahora vamos a introducir a Lisa Calderón, la asambleísta que es junto a mi distrito. In Spanish, I'm sorry, in English. Assemblywoman Calderón was our neighboring assemblywoman.
Thank you. Thank you, Jose. And I'd like to thank Chairwoman McKinner for bringing us here together and all my colleagues from the Bay to LA who are here. We're grateful for your support. As we speak, and as you've heard, there's tremendous fear in our communities. As I was boarding the plane to come here this morning, I started getting text messages that ICE was in 2 of my cities. In the city of Whittier, they were staging at the courthouse, they were at the Home Depot, and they were at the public library. Keep in mind it's summer, and so, the library is usually a safe place to take your kids in the summer. So let me just be clear. Trump and the federal government have intentionally provoked and created the chaos that we're seeing today. These nameless, faceless agents, many of them wearing masks with no ID, were in the garment district. Were they targeting criminals, perverts? No, they were targeting women who showed up for work so they could earn money to feed their families, and also happen to be taxpayers and contribute to our economy. These aggressive ICE raids that are taking place throughout Southern California, they're vile, and they're targeting people that are beloved members of our communities. Fathers, sons, neighbors, sons, daughters, and we will not let this stand. And what breaks my heart is that we've seen this before. This is not the first time we've seen this. In the 1930s, when anti-immigrant rhetoric was widespread at the federal level, the Mexican repatriation program deported over 300,000 individuals of Mexican descent. Well, guess what? 50% of those were U.S. citizens. Many of them It took years for them to get back to their homeland. They were citizens. They had no right to be deported. And here today in 2025, we're seeing this disgusting behavior again. We cannot and will not return to a time when communities are targeted because of the color of their skin or the pronunciation of their last name. And my fear is that we're seeing history repeating itself. That's why we are imploring the federal government to halt the violent actions taking place in our communities. And we stand before you with a strong belief that everyone in our country deserves due process and to be treated with basic decency and dignity. That was not afforded to David Huerta, as you've heard from my colleagues. He's a champion for working Californians and families who was injured and detained during an ICE raid over the weekend. And so we join and ask for his immediate release. No more ICE raids, no National Guard. The presence of these federal entities incite fear and escalate violence. And like my colleagues said before me, our local law enforcement is well equipped to handle these situations. So no thank you, Mr. Trump. We do not need your help. I'd like to thank the Speaker, the Pro Tem, Ms. McKenna, and all my colleagues for being here to support us today. Now I'd like to introduce Assemblywoman Sharon Quirk-Silva.
She needs to go otherwise she won't be able to go to work. But say your name so they don't think.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Assemblymember Blanca Pacheco, and I represent the 64th Assembly District. I represent a majority Latino community. I represent Southeast LA and a little bit of Orange County as well. And what I saw over the weekend was very distressing. It was distressing for our community. It was distressing for my colleagues here. It was distressing for the whole state of California. And this morning, I also heard about raids happening within different parts of my Assembly District. I also was notified that federal agents were using an elementary school and a church in Norwalk, which is in my district, as a staging area for raids. Let that sink in. This is a church and elementary school where children are, where they should feel at peace. And this is where ICE was. So again, let that sink in. Our children, our innocent children. This is not about public safety. This is cruelty as policy. Immigrants are the backbone of our communities and our economy. ICE raids of workplaces means that immigrants are at work, contributing to our society. The so-called chaos isn't being created by hardworking families. It's being manufactured by federal enforcement that tears apart the fabric of our neighborhoods. The Trump administration sent the National Guard to Los Angeles without the request of our governor or the Los Angeles mayor. The federal government intentionally is generating conflict by sending troops against their own people. What is the purpose of using an elementary school or a church as a base for these raids? What message does that send to our families and to our children? Our families are not threats. Our children and families deserve to know their schools and places of worship are safe places. The federal government should stop treating the people of California as opponents and withdraw the National Guard immediately. Until that happens, we will continue to show up for each other today and every day. And for those who are peacefully demonstrating, I commend you. And for those agitators, please stop. Please stop, because we need to have peaceful protests within Los Angeles County. And I want to thank our chair, Assemblywoman Tina McKinnon, for holding this press conference. And I also want to thank my colleagues for being here and standing with us here in Los Angeles County for us that represent that area. So thank you all. And now I'd like to have Assemblymember Sharon Quirk-Silva come up.
Good morning. I am Assemblymember Sharon Quirk-Silva. I represent North Orange County and parts of Los Angeles. Friends, I'm outraged. What we are seeing right now throughout the state of California is not only terrorizing and traumatizing, it's unjust. We know that the president is using or waging war on California because of his petty disagreements with California. This just did not start over this weekend. This started in January, where the Border Patrol was sent up to Central California to the agriculture fields to start arresting men. And across California, from San Diego to Santa Ana to Los Angeles, this is the tactic. And the tactic is to divide us, to cause harm in our communities. And in fact, that is happening. We know that the fear is sustained not just for the immigrant community, but those that support the immigrant community. But the hypocrisy is loud and clear. The hypocrisy of a president that allowed January 6th individuals to attack our Capitol, who never picked up the phone to call the National Guard when individuals, our public safety, were attacked and even killed. There was no National Guard. He never picked up that phone. But who was inciting this? We know that one of our former assembly members, who is now working in LA and is demonizing the community by calling labor workers the organized unions. Yes, they are organized. Why? To protect not only the people that work for them, but to also stand up to say, we want SEIU President Deva Huerta to have his due process. So what I will end with is the questions for you, for this journalistic team here. Once people are arrested, where are they going? Where are their due rights? Why are we saying that it's okay to send Americans, Californians, to other countries? Where are the women going? Are they being disappeared? Do we know? Are we asking these questions? Because the United States is based on our Constitution. Every act that we see coming down from this federal administration is unconstitutional. And when we see people standing up to protest, that is their right. Yes, I agree. We have agitators, and they should not be doing what they are doing, and we need to de-escalate. But this escalation came from the President of the United States. With that, I ask, don't take the bait. Don't take the bait. Continue to protect one another. Continue to hold your families close. And continue to stand up and voice. Because if we don't stand up now, when? Next, we have Assemblymember Juan Carrillo.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for being here today. I'm Assemblymember Juan Carrillo, representing the 39th Assembly District, parts of LA County and San Bernardino County. As an immigrant myself, I am deeply disturbed by the recent ICE raids in Los Angeles that is being coordinated by the federal administration, targeting some of the most vulnerable members of our community. This is Trump's playbook. Again and again, he ordered violence against peaceful protesters in D.C., as was mentioned just before, just for a photo op, and he instigated the January 6th insurrection. These continued actions do not make us safer. They instill fear, tear families apart, and force people further into the shadows. I know what it's like to live in fear. No one should have to wonder whether stepping outside means not coming home to their loved ones or their family members. This administration wants to provoke unrest and harm to our LA communities. Our focus is keeping people safe, not tearing families apart. I stand with our immigrant communities and will continue to speak out against these cruel and unnecessary attacks. We deserve to live without fear. Y ahora voy a decir unas palabras en español. El presidente creó una crisis en Los Ángeles. No hubo caos en Los Ángeles. Trump instigó esta situación y esta es la estrategia de Trump una y otra vez. Ordenó la violencia contra las protestas pacíficas en Washington, D.C. para una sesión fotográfica e instigó la insurrección del 6 de enero. Ahora ha lanzado un ataque contra las comunidades inmigrantes, haciendo que ICE ataque indiscriminadamente a trabajadores y familias. Yo personalmente viví eso cuando vine aquí a California en 1988 a la edad de 15 años. Fui detenido por un fin de semana en San Isidro y sé lo que es vivir bajo ese terror. Todos aún tenemos familiares, tenemos vecinos, tenemos amigos que viven esa situación y estamos aquí para ayudarles. I also want to thank all my colleagues here behind me and the speaker and the pro tem and everybody that's standing behind us. We're going to be with you. We'll continue to fight for your rights, and we call for a stop for what President Trump is doing in our communities. Muchas gracias. Y ahora voy a presentar a la asambleísta Pilar Chavo, and I'm going to introduce Assembly Member Pilar Chavo to say a few words.
Good afternoon. My name is Pilar Chavo. I represent North LA County in Assembly District 40. I want to first thank the chair, thank Speaker Rivas and all of my colleagues here today, and recognize my counterpart on the Senate side, Senator Archuleta. As the chair of the Military and Veteran Affairs Committee, I am compelled to speak out today. The decision by the current president and his administration to federalize the California National Guard, bypassing the governor, while simultaneously threatening to deploy active duty military in Los Angeles, marks one of the most serious and threatening uses of domestic military authority in modern American history. This statute, used by our current president to validate his actions, has not been used without the consent of the governor or local officials since 1965. And only in moments of profound national crisis during this desegregation of our schools. To apply it now in response to overwhelmingly peaceful protests, which are protected by the First Amendment, raises urgent legal questions and grave concerns. The seizing of our 2,000 CalGuard troops by the federal administration to use against civilians on American soil must meet the highest constitutional standards. The threshold for invoking this power is meant to be extraordinary, involving insurrection, rebellion, or the complete breakdown of civil order beyond the capacity of state and local government to manage. None of these tests have been met here, despite his attempts to intentionally escalate the situation, and this is why legal action has been taken today by the state of California around this illegal act of our federal government. I'm deeply concerned that these actions risk undermining public trust in the National Guard and our CalGuard. They strain the foundational principles of civilian oversight and escalate tensions rather than resolving them. This overreach to turn our military against Americans should send a chill down the spine of every American, especially those who believe in the rule of law, as we all should. I know this would torment my father, who fought to protect and defend this democracy and our Constitution and died as a result of that service. We must remember that the California National Guard is not a tool for political control or to further a narrative, but it's a public institution of trust and service to safeguard national security. CalGuard was just released 2 weeks ago from months of service to protect Angelenos in the wake of the disastrous LA fires, making this deployment even more stark. We know how to deploy mutual aid and coordinate additional law enforcement support from additional cities and counties. Any presidential action that deploys military force domestically, particularly against our own people, must be guided by the Constitution and the moral weight of democratic values, yet both are absent here. We're here in Sacramento today because we have important work to do at our capital. Our state budget is facing billions in cuts, largely due to a president who is attempting to further enrich his billionaire friends on the backs of hard-working Californians. As we face this unprecedented action and the response to people peacefully protesting, we will not be distracted by the work that needs to make a life more affordable and safer for our communities throughout the state. Today, I call on the President to responsibly de-escalate the situation for the immediate withdrawal of the California National Guard and to relinquishment of Los Angeles to local law enforcement, who have stated and proven that they are more than equipped to handle the current situation. Federalization of the California National Guard and potential deployment of the military on our own citizens must meet the highest threshold. And it is clear that those standards have not been met. We must never treat military authority as a substitute for mutual aid or a tool against our First Amendment rights. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We just have a few more speakers. Just bear with us. We have a lot of people from LA County and around the state that have something to say. And so our next speaker would be Assemblymember Rick Saber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank Speaker Rivas and Pro Tem McGuire. This weekend, we witnessed deeply disturbing scenes across Los Angeles. Following a series of ICE raids, including broad sweeps in the Fashion District of downtown Los Angeles, in Paramount, and even the arrest of a 9-year-old at an elementary school in Torrance, peaceful protesters exercising their constitutional rights were detained by ICE and other federal agents. Some of these peaceful protesters were treated violently. Among them was our friend and respected labor leader, SEIU California President David Huerta, who was knocked to the ground and later hospitalized due to his injuries. David was peacefully standing up for immigrant communities, something he has done his entire life. And now we're seeing a further deliberate escalation of the situation. The President of the United States has deployed National Guard troops to our state without the consent or request of California's governor. Let me say that again, without the consent or request of California's governor. This hasn't happened in decades. It's a blatant disregard for state sovereignty and a dangerous escalation of federal force. Even as we speak, 500 Marines are now standing by, ready to be deployed. Let me be clear. This is not normal. This is not right. This is not who we are as a country, and it certainly is not who we are as Californians. Local law enforcement was and is present and is better equipped to manage the situation on the ground without further inflaming it. In this moment, I urge all of us, do not meet fear with fear. Do not meet violence with violence. To those who are angry, frightened, or fed up, we hear you. I stand with you. And please speak out peacefully. Use your voice, your vote, your power, but not violence. Do not tear down our community, harm or vandalize local businesses, or attack law enforcement. That is exactly what the Trump administration is hoping for, an excuse to escalate further and to justify more troops, more chaos, and more fear in our community. Trump is not responding to unrest. He is creating it. He's provoking it. I want to thank Governor Newsom for taking swift action to stop this abuse of power, filing a lawsuit today to block the unlawful federalization of the National Guard, not just in California, but in any state across the country. Let me repeat that. What he wants to do is be able to deploy these troops in any state across the country. So let us stand together, firm, proud, peaceful, for kids, for families, for our communities. We want to keep families together, not tear them apart. And let's remember, we are strongest when we refuse to be silenced, when we refuse to become what we are fighting against. Thank you very much, Chair McKinnon. Thank you for everyone who is here today. Well, I'd like to introduce my colleague who chairs the Assembly Judiciary Committee, Assemblymember Ash Kalra.
Thank you all so much. Thank you to the Speaker and Pro Tem, and of course Chair McKinner for bringing us together. My name is Ash Kalra, representing San Jose in the California State Assembly. San Jose stands with LA, and if they come after LA, they come after the Bay. And we're going to make it very clear that we stand united. As has been referenced, the last time a president federalized a National Guard over the objections of a governor was 60 years ago in 1965. In that case, it was LBJ federalizing the Alabama National Guard to protect peaceful civil rights demonstrators that were not being protected by Governor George Wallace or by local law enforcement. So imagine that, where we are now 60 years ago. We have Trump cosplaying as Governor George Wallace, as we are demanding that he stop his attack on Los Angeles and our entire state. Now, over the years, there's been a lot of commentary on ICE, whether it was a Democratic or Republican administration. But let's make it clear. Under the Obama and Biden administrations, millions were deported. But they were deported after having removal orders that a court issued. They were given due process. They were not denied due process. And what do we see now? We see ICE invading our neighborhoods, going to elementary school graduations, picking up people randomly in front of Home Depots, standing outside workplaces, going to courts and snatching people up from courts that do not have removal orders and arresting peaceful protesters like our political prisoner and friend David Huerta. So what we have to make very clear is that we're not going to stand for this. We stand with the governor and attorney general as they have filed what I believe is the 27th lawsuit against this administration, as Assemblymember Zuber mentioned in this case regarding the federalization of state National Guard, which they will do in other places. So when we sue to stop the federalization of our National Guard, we're doing it for everyone in this country, every state in this country. When we sue to protect due process, we do it for every human being that lives in this country. Because if they can take due process away from one of us, it's gone for all of us. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "True peace is not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice." So as they continue to lie, as they continue to make a mockery of our legal system, we will stand up for justice. As they shred the Constitution into pieces, we will stand up for our Constitution. And as they spread hate and division and fear, we will lift up one another with love and unity. We are here to answer questions, and especially any legal questions you might have. We have Nick Schultz, John Harabidian, two of the finest lawyers in our legislature. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do any of you have any comment on the photos that my colleagues at the Chronicle just published showing National Guard troops sleeping on the floors of federal buildings? Apparently, a source told us that there was not adequate preparation. I'm wondering if any of you guys have seen those photographs and if you have any reaction to those.
I think this speaks to what the governor has talked about and others have talked about, a complete lack of coordination and communication, which is what you would expect if you actually want law and order instead of chaos and disorder. And so I think that exemplifies the problem that we have here. And the problem that is underlying all of this is this has nothing to do with public safety. It's all a show. It's all propaganda. And we're demanding that it stop.
I saw those photographs and I was appalled by it. We had National Guard troops sleeping on what looked like a floor in some kind of industrial room. And I think it just sort of shows both the lack of respect that this president has for people who are serving our country and our state and are charged with keeping us safe. The conditions were appalling, and it shows sort of the lack of planning and the lack of respect for members of our National Guard.
When it comes to the funds that were approved for the special session,
Okay.
the funds that you guys approved in the special session earlier this year, are some of those funds being used for this lawsuit? And I know that's something that included support for immigrant rights groups to cover legal resources.
Great. First of all, thank you to my colleagues from LA. I'm here just really in solidarity about this just frankly fascist attack on Los Angeles, it's just absolutely horrific. Yes, when we passed our special session budget bill, it was exactly for situations like this. We wanted to make sure that the Attorney General has the resources that he needs to be able to sue Donald Trump as many times as he needs to enforce the law and to defend Californians' rights. And we know in the first Trump administration, California won a large majority of the lawsuits that we were forced to file. We don't want to file these lawsuits. We're being forced to file them because we have a lawless president who thinks that he's the king, and he's not the king. And so that's why we did this. And I also wanted to say in the joint Senate Assembly budget agreement that was just released, we have additional funding for several of our major city attorneys and county councils, because we know at the city level as well, they need to be able to enforce the law against the Trump administration, and so we want to make sure that they can do so. And then the money that we put into legal services, I would like a lot more into legal services, but we wanted to make sure that we were supporting these organizations when they are needed the most. It was $10 million, $10 million, and $10 million, I believe.
Thank you. I saw a hand in the back there. Okay.
Hi, LA Times, Sandra McDonald. Thank you all for having this. I wanted to sort of to your point, be clear that LAPD does have this handled and that there's no need for the National Guard to come in at this point. Are there any concerns about the use of force that LAPD has been shown? I mean, we have videos of an Australian reporter getting shot by a rubber bullet. They're not supposed to be directly at people. We have use of, mounting units trampling somebody who's already on the ground. Are there concerns about that, and what are you guys prepared to do to address that?
Happy to weigh in. Yes, hi, Nick Schultz, Chair of the Assembly Committee on Public Safety. Appreciate the question, and I want to echo something that my colleagues said in the course of their remarks. We're reaching a boiling point in Los Angeles, and that is a direct result of the actions of this president, who clearly feels that the Constitution is something advisory and not something that he's bound to. Our local law enforcement, LA Police Department, Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, they are some of the finest in the country. They are prepared and more than capable to handle any sort of civil unrest that comes up. What we're seeing here, however, is an opportunistic president who's trying to send a message to the rest of this country that he's a strong man, that he's a despot. And I would simply submit that he is unbefit, undeserving of the office that he possesses. Each and every one of us up here has strong relationships with all of our local elected officials in Los Angeles. To the extent that there are abuses of power, misapplications of use of force, we have a mechanism to review that and to hold those officers accountable. What we don't need right now is military-grade equipment and personnel answering to the whims of a dictator in the White House on the streets of Los Angeles. That, I humbly submit, makes everybody less safe. I can only speak for myself, not my colleagues, but I'll say this. I stand with our speaker. He's going to have to arrest every single one of us. We all took an oath that we take seriously to uphold and defend the Constitution. We do not... What you are seeing from this president, and it's hard to call him a president in this moment because he's acting like a dictator, is he is trying to jail political opponents. Based on my practice, my experience as a criminal prosecutor, and I know there are others here with experience as well, I have seen nothing that Governor Newsom has done that would be deserving of a criminal indictment or arrest or charge. This is politics at its very worst. So part of our solution is that whatever we have to do to defend our constitutional officers, officers to defend our citizens, to defend everyone who calls California home. We will sue this administration as many times as it takes until justice is served.
There's been some criticism that the state's policy of non-cooperation with federal immigration enforcement kind of pushes the feds to make arrests more in the community rather than at police stations. Can you kind of respond to that criticism?
Yeah.
And also address some of the bills that are coming your way from the Senate discouraging ICE operations at hospitals, schools, shelters, any number of other kind of public-facing spaces?
Let me see if we have any senators with us. I might. I'm happy to address the first part of the question about the existing state of the law, and then if we have a Senate colleague who'd like to weigh in, I'd love to hand it over to Senator Archuleta. But I would say that what we're hearing from advocates suggesting that California is ungovernable, that our sanctuary state laws are impeding the ability of ICE to do their job, that's hogwash. That is absolutely not true. As the U.S. Attorney in Los Angeles has even stated himself, law enforcement is more than capable of going to a federal magistrate, applying for a search warrant, and executing their functions. All that Senate Bill 54 does, the California Values Act, does is ensure that we are not deploying or utilizing state resources to assist them in the execution of their job. ICE is more than capable of doing their job without the benefit of California. SB 54 does not impede their ability to do their job or to keep California safe, but what we are seeing here is the weaponization of law enforcement applied against citizens and non-citizens alike. Senator Archuleta, do you want to weigh in on some of the Senate's work?
Well, okay, let me possibly finish this up. I'm California State Senator Bob Archuleta, and I'm the chair of the Military and Veterans Committee, and which I don't know if you know this, but we have about 31 military bases here in California. We have a large presence in the United States, leading the way with our military all over the state of California. But I just want to touch on something for a second. Imagine all the men and women who are serving who grew up in California one way or the other. Their families grew up in California, and they are blessed to be Americans. But how about their moms and dads and their grandmothers who may be immigrants, who are at home right now in fear of going out to the streets? I got a call from a paratrooper in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Said, Senator, how you doing? How's my parents? Should we worry? Should I let my cousins and nephews go to school, go to the library? What a terrible, terrible question for a United States American paratrooper who is on active duty to ask of his representative in California. Isn't that terrible? Well, those questions are coming across the board from all branches of service, men and women who are serving, who have family in California who fear for their life. So on a personal note, I wrote down some notes here. As someone who was born and raised in Los Angeles, firsthand, there's a city or an area of Los Angeles called Lincoln Heights. And that's where I grew up, and my family, generations after generation, were born here in Los Angeles and California. But what I witnessed over the weekend has broken my heart in so many ways. The injury and detention of my friend David Huerta is not just upsetting, it's a reminder to all of us that even in the city of Los Angeles, where it was built on diversity and progress, we are now still vulnerable to actions that cause pain and division. The injury, the detention of David Huerta is just so upsetting to all of us. Remember, he represents SEIU, one of the largest unions in the state of California, hardworking men and women who clean our hotels, our schools, who drive our buses, and goes on, the number of jobs they have. But, of course, a lot of them right now are in fear themselves. But if anyone's going to protest, please do it with dignity, do it with pride, do it with honor. It is an honor to protest, to stand up in America to say, I don't like it, I don't want it, and I don't deserve it, and neither does my family. You can do this to protest, but there's outside agitators. So I reach out to my fellow law enforcement officers who I served with the Montebello Police Department. Go find these agitators. The Highway Patrol, LAPD. Find these agitators, sit them down, find out who's paying for them. I truly believe these are individuals who are being paid right now to be in our streets and our cities to divert attention for what is truly happening. It is important that we find out who they are and let's stop them. And it is a sacred thing to protest, no doubt. And it is a sacred thing to be able to raise the American flag and to be able to talk about your home country as well as our country. But I speak on behalf of so many of my family who served this country. I, as a former paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne, my sons that are serving right now, 2 of my sons, nephews who are still serving, and it goes on. And I'm just one. But to our veterans who we just acknowledged here just a few weeks ago, or Memorial Day, what do you think they're feeling? Those veterans who've given so much. And to their buddies, the names that are on the wall in Washington, every ethnic group you can think of are on those names. What do you think they're thinking if they can come down? What is happening to our country? What is happening to our California? Incarcerating members of our community because there's a strategy out there that I find that's not constructive at all. Condemning people, incarcerating them because of the fact that they've not been able to actually follow the situation, the protocol, but give them a chance. We heard earlier today by one of the assembly members that it was President Ronald Reagan who set a path to open the doors. Well, maybe we should do that. Well, maybe Washington should take a time out and let's analyze what California is all about. We're the 4th largest economy in the world, and don't turn us away. Be a partner in California because we are a partner to the United States, and we are the 4th largest economy in the world, and we are ready to go ahead and stand up for those who are feeling this injustice, this fear. So please, let's find a peaceful way to acknowledge what's happening, and let's come to the table, and let's go ahead and straighten this thing out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chris Rogers, 2nd Assembly District, representing the North Coast. Prior to being in the Assembly, I served as a local council member and as a local mayor. And I really wanted to get back to your question about sanctuary city statuses and the impact that that has. And I'll say this. We all can talk about what makes our communities the safest, and federal agents have a role to play and a responsibility around immigration policy. But our local law enforcement, they have to have good relationships with our immigrant communities. Whether the president believes it or not, it makes our communities less safe to have immigrants hiding in the shadow. It makes us less healthy to require them to use the emergency room for health care rather than be proactive. If our law enforcement is involved in ICE and in immigration enforcement, people are less likely to come forward when there's something wrong in their community and work with local law enforcement and partner. So the president may say that sanctuary city status makes our communities less safe. Those of us who have actually worked on the front line in our communities know that those relationships actually make our communities more safe, and allowing our local law enforcement to have those relationships with people keeps the rest of our community able to be successful in moving forward as well.
I guess I just wonder, do you all have any sense that, if the more you pass, non-cooperation policies and sort of just ICE being in a bunch of different spaces, are you concerned at all about further inflaming tensions with the federal government and sort of pushing them to conduct raids in more and more unsafe or chaotic locations?
Great question, and I'll be brief. I'm not concerned because I think this administration has already made it quite clear that they're going to seize the political opportunity and weaponize against its own people. So I think they're already doing it. What I would say, though, is that SB 54 was tested and upheld in federal court. It is proven to be constitutional. So while I don't have the details here today on all the various Senate proposals that will be coming through Assembly Public Safety, to the extent that those proposals fit squarely within the framework that's already been constitutionally tested, we'll continue to harden the law to the extent that we can.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for coming today. We appreciate it. As I was standing there, I found out that ICE is in Inglewood at the Home Depot on Century. And so they're in every community. And the thing about these guys coming in, what I saw this weekend was that, can you imagine being stopped and asked to get out your car or come with someone who doesn't have a badge, an ID to show you who they are? They don't have any kind of ID number so that you can write and say who they are. This is very scary. scary. We don't know who these people are. We don't know if they're bounty hunters. We don't know who they are that are coming in and taking our people. So with that, I thank you so much for coming and having patience with our legislators today. Thank you.